Okay, we're back on a nice hot summer afternoon. This is a good place to be in the AC. All right, I added a few trees, a few more, excuse me, a couple trees, two more. And to finish these off in the background, you want to do a palette. I've got a light gray, a dark gray, a black, and a white. That's what I've got going from the trees right now. This light gray, using the number 3 or 4 round brush. Of course, always when you're fixing to use one of your brushes, dip it in water and then wipe it off so the little hairs or the bristles will be damp. And just coming in here on the back side of this one, further away from the light source, just doing a little bit of that dark gray. Just quick little strokes, guys. See, it just gives it that hint of a shadow, and then you can rinse your brush, grab a little bit of that white, and just lightly put a little white right there. And of course I'm using a lot of water, but just to give it its light source. It's picking up on that light source there. So you can see the front side of the tree and then the back side. Okay, the same thing with this one, but it doesn't have much light source. We're just going to do on top of that light gray, going to do just little short strokes of the medium gray. Wipe my brush, rinse it, and with a damp brush, just going to move that color around just ever so slightly before it dries. You want to do that all the way up this tree here. This one's kind of blocking its light. Let's get a little bit closer. Just little short strokes. It'll mimic a tree trunk, in this case a birch, but we don't want a whole lot of definition because that is in the background, okay? So now it's a good time to grab that little liner brush, get it wet, make sure there's always no water here. And you want to grab that dark gray, and that's going to be our spots on these background trees. Now your spots, to me, I mean, when you look at a birch tree picture, my goodness, especially the ones that are far away, there's just tons of these squiggly little marks on the tree. Again, using the dark gray, trying to get as close to the edge as I can. And it really, you'll see this same pattern type show up when we do like a leopard pattern for a project. Just little odd shapes. Maybe a couple smaller ones going up the tree. Just some odd shaped marks. I tried to round off some of it just so it mimics a round tree. Let's see here. Let's get a little bit closer. just little odd shapes. And you will master that look of the tree. Going all the way up. See, it begins to start looking like a birch tree. Now I'm putting mine pretty close together on this one, but they're not all that way. Some have a pretty good distance before you see a mark. Maybe add a couple more of those little odd spots. Okay, so if you can tell light is coming in this direction, shadow in the back, and if you wanted to make it even more believable, you could go back on your spots that are in the shadow and do them in black. That would even make a difference as well. Okay, for time's sake, same thing on this one. We're gonna just use the dark gray and make the spots going all the way up. Here we've got two. This is supposed to be my main tree right here. It will be white with the spots, and this one will be white with a little bit of light gray, because again, it pushes it back. If you notice, I did a little branch sticking out of this area here. Grabbing your black with a liner brush, make sure that black is jello consistency, very thin. Dip your brush into it, twirl it off, and just in different spots, you could add, this is a good time for your hand to shake. You can just add a few branches here and there. You can just, this you can do almost all day long, adding all kinds of little interest in there. Oh my goodness, that sounded like Bob. Good old Bob Ross. But really, and it's true, you could just keep adding and adding until you just don't want to put any more in there. But it just makes it a little bit more of a forest look. Let's do one big one right up here. And it's going to have a couple of more limbs on it. You just want to make sure that when you're doing a limb like this, let's say when you start to put in another limb on here and you end up with it being thick, just go back down the main trunk or the main branch again to kind of line it all back out. And we can add one right here. Of course, once it goes up into that yellow area, it really pops. And again, you're using watered down black. You could do some more all up and through here, which I would go with a dark gray when you're starting to work in this area. But let's see how black shows up real quick. I think it's going to be too strong. Let's try the dark gray, watered down, fill in your liner brush, and let's just put something right next to this tree here. Using that dark gray again, we can put something right next to that other tree. Yep, I like that. And then of course out through here, we could do some branches. And that's with in front of the light source, I would go ahead and do a black branch. I'm gonna have to turn this sideways so I can reach it. But you want to come in from where the tree might be. And you get the feel of those forest trees being way back there in the back. And we'll come up here and do another little one. Just to give it a little bit more interest. But you can see how you can work on this all day long if you wanted to, or you know, put it aside and go back the next day and start working on it. But let's work on this tree right here. And I'm taking my number 4 round brush, grabbing a little bit of that white. I'm gonna add gray to this tree later, but for now we're gonna add a little bit of white. Now since this tree is, the base of it is behind this big focal point tree, I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of that light gray I've got on my palette. Do light gray where the base would be. Wetting my brush. And moving that light gray into that white. You see it kind of buffs it out a little bit. Makes it look a little bit more believable. Or realistic, I guess. Yeah, you'll find that these number 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 round brushes are your best friends. I love them. But again, you're gonna find, once you develop more of your artistic skill, you're gonna find your favorite brushes. You're gonna find your favorite things to work on. And same thing with, well, I think it's everything. It's like cooking, you know, there's certain things about cooking I just love, like eating. No, seriously, there's certain things I like to do when I'm cooking, and then there's certain things that are a real pain in the rear, like peeling potatoes. I don't always peel my potatoes, I just wash them real good and use it. But there are times I have to peel my potatoes, and it's just not one of my favorite things to do. But it's the same thing with painting. I have found that same thing with crocheting. There's certain things in crocheting I love to do, and then some parts are just a pain, but you gotta do them to be able to get to the finished project. You'll find the same thing going on with painting. Certain things you've got to do to build that painting up. All right, I've got to turn my surface. Grabbing that white. We're just going to paint that all the way down. Now my second coat on this tree will be white and the light gray. Now we'll take a look at it and see if it's overly fat in one area. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. All right. So while the top up here is drying, I'll go back down towards the base. Of course, the light source is back really behind this tree, but yet this tree is bound to be adding a little bit of a shadow on the left side of this tree here that's leaning. So we're gonna go with that. We're gonna do a little bit of gray up the left side and keep going with the white up the right. Kind of a stroke, it's more of stroking the colors together than actually doing a blend like we do on the leaf, because when you use your brush for stroking, it does mimic a tree trunk. It's like, it just kind of shows the different colors and shades of a tree trunk. All right, grabbing the light gray, water it down a little bit more. My paints are drying fast. All right, we're gonna come in the back side. Give it a little bit of gray. Rinse your brush, grab the white. Put the white in front. Let it cross over to that gray a little bit, just to move it around. But again, I don't want to completely buff that out. I need that different colors on that tree trunk. So grabbing the gray, let's do the back side. Rinsing my brush, grab the white. Sorry guys, I gotta work a little fast here. Everything's drying so quick today. But all I'm doing is making long strokes. Grab a little bit of that gray with the white on my brush. We just want that discoloration look. Nothing perfect in that. All right, white on front. Rinse my brush, grab a little bit of that gray. Let's do the gray on the back side. Come out a little bit. Rinse my brush, make sure it's damp, and just lightly go over into the white area from the gray. Now let's see if I'm getting close enough. Well, I'm leaving a white line there. Let's move that back just a little bit while it's still wet. We don't need perfect white showing up on the left side of that tree. But you can see how just doing stroke work, you're getting a combination of those different colors. Okay, same thing, let's go white. And I'm only doing just sections because the paint is drying so quickly today. Grab a little bit of that gray. Rinse your brush, wipe it off, make sure it's damp. Let's get that gray as close to the edge as we can, and then go into that white. Grab a little bit of white. There we go. Now we can break that up a little bit. Let's see how close I'm getting. Not bad. Okay. Again, a little bit of white at the top. Coming down the side. Rinse your brush, grab a little bit of that light gray. Really, it's a medium gray if you ask me. Well, we're asking you. Okay. You know, it's funny, y'all. There's times my dog comes in here and just sits, and I'm in my dining room, and he just sits and listens. It's the funniest thing. I think sometimes he looks at me and think, lady, who are you talking to? You have lost your mind. Okay, just quick little strokes. See how nicely that mimics a tree trunk. I will do the same thing with this one. I'll have white on the right side of it, and I'll have the gray on the left because it's further away from the light source. But for this one, we're going to do the same thing that we did here, which is adding all those little marks to it. One of the things that I've noticed is grab your brown and add a little brown to your palette, and I'll tell you why here. Add a little bit of water, stir it up, because I noticed that some of those birch trees, when you're really close to them, it's not like a solid black mark. You see a little bit of brown. Sometimes you even see a little bit of white on top. So we're going to use the black on this one, and some spots I'm going to use a little bit of black and a little bit of brown. And my black is watered down good enough. I don't have any water on my liner brush. I'm going to come in here on the side, and every now and then I'm going to make it curve a little bit so it kind of mimics a round tree. Gives you that illusion. Some of the spots are even bigger than others. This is a good time to add that little bit of brown on top of that black. And you can go all the way up that tree with your spots. Lines and spots, little dabbles, nothing major. And again, to make this one in the background even more realistic, I would add the black to the back side of these marks, and maybe add a lighter gray to the front spot. You don't have to do that many, just a few, and it'll catch your eye, and it'll look really cool. All right, so finishing that one off with spots. This one I'm going to do white in front, gray in back. We're going to add a few more branches just to give it a bit of interest. And once the tree trunk is done down here at the base, I'm going to show you. We'll add, because I'm going to finish mine off camera. And again, you can play with yours until you're happy with it. But I think the main thing now is to finish your trees. Gray in the back on the left side, white on the right side. Add your branches, like I said, and till you're happy with it. You don't have to add a whole bunch. It can get out of hand. You can even add some black trees back through here that are leaning a little bit. Just solid black. And the reason I say black instead of going with gray is because they are in the dark. You could add some more black, or add some black trees back through here too. Just nothing, no branches, no anything. Just the tree trunk. Because they're so far in the back in the dark, under all the shrubs and the trees, there wouldn't be much detail to them. But it'd still catch your eye. All right, so what we'll do here at the base, once these two trees are done, is go in with a little bit of green, dark green on your palette. That means your green and a smidge of black mixed in. And we're going to need a little bit of orange. Maybe a tad bit of yellow. Same thing we were using for the foliage. Might as well go ahead and throw you some white on that palette. using my dancing brush, scruffy brush, instead of using the sponge. Right here at the base, I would, once these two trees are done, I would come in first with a little bit of the black and gray mixture, black and green mixture. You want it nice and wet, or really, really dark green. And you'll have this black show up right in front of those trunks at the base. And what that does is, of course, once again, makes that tree go in the background a little bit. Kind of gives it a little home to sit in. And once that dries, we'll come in here and we'll just add a little bit more of the yellow and the orange to brighten up that spot. A little bit of white. Yeah, that's almost dry there. A little bit of yellow. I had green in my brush. I need to rinse that out better. All right, a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow. My brush's got water, and we'll just touch right through here, just ever so slightly. Yeah, it's still wet right there, so I'll wait. All you're doing is just adding a little bit more interest here. Just barely tap it out. I clean my brush off and I'm using the water. Yeah, because it's still wet. Once that dries fully, I'll go back with just a little bit, because I don't want to lose the black green right here that's touching that tree trunk. But I do want to highlight this area through here. So I will use a little bit of the orange, a little bit of the yellow. Let's see if it's dry enough. Just touching it here and there. All I did was rinse my brush off. Got a little water on it, and I'm just touching this to soften it up so it doesn't look so rough. Just soften it up a little bit. Now I've got this big old spot I need to do something with. So I'm going to grab a little bit of the green, not so much the black, just a little bit of the green. Let's see what some straight up green would look like right there. Just touch it here and there. Leaving a little bit of that black background showing. I like that. Yeah, that's working. Rinse my brush. Now to soften up some of those marks, I'm just going to dance over it again, ever so slightly with a damp brush. We'll grab a little bit of that yellow. A little bit of yellow. The green is still in my brush, and which I think that'll work. All I do is tap off some of the paint. Now just touch right in there, just to give it a little highlight. Not much. We don't want too much down here. Rinsing my brush off, and of course it's damp. And just touch right through there. Just a little bit here and there. And you know, if you get to the part, like, you know, this was bugging the fire out of me, and when it's just not working for you, either step away for a while, do something new, go wash dishes, go run errands, call a sick friend, and then come back to it. Or just paint the whole thing dark green again. Yeah. Because there's something about fixing a mistake, a lot of times you won't do it again. Now, not in my case, but you know, probably other people learn their lesson the first time. For me, it kind of takes 2 or 3 times, you know, where God looks at me like, hey, Beth, pull it together, girl. Okay. So, I'm gonna leave you here. This is where you're at. So again, we're going to finish this back tree back here, leaving it all gray and added spots. Here we're gonna have, of course, the gray on the back side, white on the front, on this side, and add all its spots, and some of the spots letting them be kind of a brownish black. This same thing here, we're gonna go a lighter gray on the left, and then white on the front of it, and add the spots and stripes all the way up. Add you some branches through here, and if you want to get real froggy, you grab some of that pure yellow with your dancing brush. Now dance it off a little bit. We don't want too much paint on here, so I'm wiping it off just a tad. And you can come in here and just barely touch some of these areas, kind of make those branches disappear just a little bit. But do you see when you add a little bit more highlight, how all of a sudden everything just pops? I love that about painting. So grabbing a little bit of my yellow and just a touch of my white, stirred it with my old dancing brush. It will work just fine. Dance off some of it. We don't want too much paint. Let's say we come right in here and add just a little bit of something, foliage that's a little strong right there. See, and that, soften it up, you can rinse your brush, leave your brush damp, and barely touch underneath it. Remember like we did the clouds? Where you do a line, you know, you're doing your clouds, and when you come back in to kind of buff out your clouds, you're not hitting the main part of the cloud, or let's say the main edge of the cloud, but you're dancing and causing it to blend out underneath there. So you leave that strong amount of paint on that edge and then blend out the rest of it. Same thing I'm doing here. I'm leaving that strong yellow right there, and then I'm just lightly tapping underneath it to blend that out. And again, you can, oh my goodness, this is something you could play with for days, especially if you're going to give it as a gift. Can you imagine? For folks that love signs, you could leave this area and end up putting some words here if you wanted to. God bless this home. It could be all kinds of different things. If you decided that you wanted to use the board inside, this side instead, doing that same scene, and then maybe on the edge here using, you could mimic the birch trees by doing black and white on the edge all the way. Wouldn't that be cool? And then of course add handles. You got a serving tray that you could give someone as a gift. There's so many neat things. I love this. It seems to be very well made. I'm very, very pleased with this. I better be. I bought tons. Okay, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Just shows one more way to pull a painting together to build something. And now don't let it frustrate you. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Again, if you would, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in buying some of my kits, you can email me at granart505@gmail.com. I will have that email address in the description. So you can send me questions, you can ask my price list for the surfaces, or you can just say hello. That'd be super nice. All right, guys, have a great day.